Hello, welcome to the Bread of Life channel. Today, I want to talk about the topic of our significance in the universe. And I'm just going to talk probably for about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to let whoever wants to join the stream. I'll put the link in. If you join the stream, you must show your face backstage before I let you on the stream. So I'd love to have you join and share your thoughts on this topic. So there's been a lot of buzz around the images from the James Webb telescope. And there's just some really beautiful images that have come out. And people are kind of talking about, the significance of this and are we significant in the universe? Is there life out there other than us? And just to read a couple of quotes, I got this from an article in Slate. It quotes a YouTuber saying, we're so, in response to the photos, we're so small, I'm gonna throw up. And another lady, a science journalist, Shannon Sterone, tweeted, I'm sorry. This is a different quote. This is from Emily Calandrelli. I look at this image and think, there is no way we're alone in the universe. I just want to show a couple of these images. And so that one's my favorite, but let's start with this one. So this is just showing tons of galaxies. And the way that it's described is that if you just take a grain of sand and hold it out at arm's length and look at, that's the amount of your field of vision that this photo is taken from. So there's it's overwhelming, the amount of galaxies and stars that are out there. And here's another quote from Slate. It says, the deep field image doesn't offer new information about the size or the age of the universe, but it makes the vastness visible. Instead of 100 billion stars in one galaxy, we're now talking about roughly a quadrillion stars, a number so big it feels like nonsense. You see why we need images to make sense of it. Even if life is extraordinarily rare times a quadrillion still seems like it should end up meaning the universe is home to more than just us. So here's another beautiful one. A picture of Southern Ring Nebula, 2,500 light years away. So if we think about each light year being 6 trillion miles from us, and then we think about 2,500 light years, it's just overwhelming, the distance and all the nebula and stars and galaxies that are out there. Here's one that this one is overwhelming to me. So Stephen's Quintet, just a cluster of 5 gorgeous galaxies. So how do you feel when you look at these images? Does this make you feel significant or insignificant? I've heard a lot of people say that when they see images like that, they feel insignificant because they realize how small we are, that we're just like a little speck in this vast universe, and that we really can't, it seems like we are so insignificant. So I guess I feel the opposite when I see images of galaxies like that. When I see this, I am absolutely overwhelmed that the God who made this cares about my thoughts. And so actually, that's one of the, I often say on my channel that I never have doubts about God's existence. I never have doubts about Jesus being the Son of God and Savior of the world. But of course, as in my spiritual journey, there have been lots of things that I doubted. And I guess some years back, this doubt suddenly crept in my mind. It was I kept going into like big crowds of people. Every time I was in a crowd of people, I would think, God, do you really know everyone here? Like, and do you really know all of their thoughts? This started to seem incomprehensible to me, to just think about the world full of billions of people and think about God knowing the thoughts of each one. And I really had a doubt about that. But when I see pictures like this and I think about all the stars, all the galaxies, the vastness of the universe, then it reminds me who I'm dealing with. It reminds me of the incredible power of God, and that knowing the thoughts and hearts of people is very small and not difficult for a being who has that kind of power to create like that. And what's interesting is that when the Bible talks about the stars, it makes the same connection that I'm making. So in Psalm 19, it says, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day, they pour forth speech. Night after night, they reveal knowledge. They have no speech. They use no words. No sound is heard from them. Yet their voice goes out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world." And then the psalm continues. It's kind of long, so I'm not going to read the entire thing. But at the end, the psalmist says, "May these words of my mouth and this meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, Lord, my rock and my redeemer." So it seems like the psalmist here is having the same reaction that I have when I see the incredible works of God's hands, all the stars, all the galaxies. It reminds me that he truly is powerful and that he knows my thoughts, and I want my thoughts to be pleasing in his sight. And then I just want to read a part of one more psalm, and then I'm just going to let you guys come in and talk about how these images make you feel, whether significant or insignificant. So Psalm 9, verse 3 says, "When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them, human beings that you care for them? You've made them a little lower than the angels and crowned them with glory and honor. You made them rulers over the works of your hands. You put everything under their feet, all flocks and herds, and the animals of the wild, the birds in the sky, and the fish in the sea, all that swim the paths of the seas. Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth." So this is amazing that the Lord has created all of this, and it says that he made us rulers over the things that he created. So when I think about that, it reminds me of the significance that God has placed on humanity, that we are incredibly significant to him. And so with that, I'm just going to let you guys come in. So I'll put the link in. Come on in and talk. Okay, so yeah, let me just look at some of the comments and say hi while I'm waiting for people to show up. B.S. Lewis says big stuff equals significant, small stuff equals insignificant. And that's a, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, B.S. Lewis. And by the way, B.S. Lewis is the Atheist of the Month, if you can see my certificate that's back there. So let's see. Hi, James.
Hello, how are you today?
Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. Hold on. I don't have my headphone in. I cannot hear you at all. I'm sorry if I was interrupting you, because I actually didn't have my headphone in, so I don't know if I was talking over you.
I missed my opportunity. I could have said anything and gotten away with it.
Well, you can do that anyway.
Sure, why not? So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling significant. How about you?
Oh yes, very significant.
Yay.
Tell me what's your reaction when you see um, things like that?
Well, because I see myself as an extension of the larger whole of the universe, an integral, um, intrinsic part of it, an expression of it, an aspect of the universe that has thought. Um, I don't feel small compared to it because I am the universe. So, I there I am. Don't I look great? That's how I see it.
Cool. So, what do you think about this idea? Does it make you, when you see like all the stars and galaxies and consider the numbers, does it make you think that we there might be life somewhere else?
Well, mathematically, it seems likely. There's two possibilities. One, we're either alone in the universe, or the other possibility is that we're not alone in the universe, and both prospects are equally terrifying. So, having said that, I mean, I'm cool either way. If there are other intelligent beings out there, I would love to meet them, possibly be enslaved by them if they pay well, if they give enough perks. So we'll have to see how that goes. Honestly, I don't even know. I don't really have an opinion about the whole alien thing. I don't have any opinion at all.
Hive Science, Bree says, I keep getting reminded how insignificant I am. Sigh.
Aw.
Well, you're not insignificant, Bree. Lena says there's no logical connection between the vastness of the universe and God's ability to hear all of our thoughts. But okay. Well, I guess for me it's a connection of power, because it seems like an incredible power for God to know all the thoughts, and that's why at one time I had doubts about it. But when I consider the power that it takes to create all the things that we can visibly see in the universe, it just reminds me that he is powerful. So, Rebel Nazarene, I can see you're trying to enter, but I need to see your face backstage. I can't see you. Sorry, you didn't show me your face. Okay, cool. Hi.
Hey, Rebecca. Thanks for having me on. This is my first time on joining your show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I've seen you. I've seen you around like on different channels. I know you guys have a little community going on with like Danny and the rest of them like that, and Pine Creek as well. Who I joined his stream for the first time as well. I think 2 weeks ago. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
Cool. I'm glad you're here. What are your thoughts on this? And hi, Joel.
Hi, Rebecca.
Glad you're here.
Yeah. So my thoughts are. I do have pretty strong opinions about this and beliefs, you can say, or just like a perspective in general. I don't know if you saw my comment in your chat before you started the stream, but how do I put this? It's probably like a lot different than most people watching, or the community that you've gathered here together. But I'm of the belief that those pictures you were originally sharing with us that recently came out with NASA and stuff. I think all those images are nothing but just Photoshop and CGI. I don't think they're rooted in reality at all. And I know that sounds crazy, but
Oh,
that's what
wow.
yeah, that's what I truly and honestly believe. Yeah.
Wow. Why do you believe that?
Well, I mean, it's very deep.
A summary. A summary.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, I've always believed in God because, just out of the simple logic that I don't think the beautiful, amazing, complex nature that we experience and see could have come about as a result of a random, accidental explosion out of nothing. Kind of like how they wanted us to believe as kids with the whole Big Bang Theory thing, and theory of evolution.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought those things were the scientific way of explaining the mechanism by which God created the universe. Right. I had no reason for them. I thought there was no reason for them to lie about it. Okay, but just as of 2 years ago, I came across what people know as the quote flat Earth theory or whatever,
Okay.
and I saw at least in my opinion, the absolutely 100% undeniable, scientific empirical evidence that does show the Earth to be a flat, level, stationary plane that's enclosed in a dome that the Bible calls the firmament, at least in the King James version. And so, if there's truly a dome above the Earth, that means nobody can leave it. So there's no astronauts going to space, and there's definitely no satellite telescopes going into space to take pictures of anything. It's just God and heaven above us. So that's what I believe.
Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing your perspective. Hi, Joel. Do you want to share your thoughts on this?
Yeah, first I want to say hi, Rebecca. I'm not sure we've directly spoken face to face before.
Yeah. Are you Dr. Joel?
Yeah.
And you've been talking to Sal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm
I
familiar.
just want to make sure you knew who I was. Yeah, I love this topic. I've loved astronomy and so forth. With respect to the flat Earth, I mean, with the dome, I mean, you could also suggest that dome might be billions of light years in width. I mean, it could just be a really, really, really big dome. So you don't have to necessarily view it as a small enclosed dome, which there's not space to work in which stars couldn't persist. But I didn't really expect to talk about that when I arrived. Yeah, Rebecca, I very much feel your vibe in your introduction, right? I think it's wonderful for you to admit this idea that are we small and insignificant, or are we very important? And in fact, we're kind of both at the same time, right? Created in this vast universe. It's just you look at those pictures and you do feel like a little tiny speck. It's just like our brains just cannot fathom the distances we're talking about and the enormity of the number of stars. And then to consider that potentially every star has a solar system around it, and then each one of those planets may have a moon around it. You're talking about unbelievable numbers. And it's very understandable why someone would say, like, why create all that? Like, if man is this central focus, God has this salvific plan of redemption, and his focus is on man. What's the necessity of having this like vast universe out there for which we will never see some of it, right? Let's just say there's places in the universe that I can't imagine we build a telescope great enough for us to ever even know it exists, right? So there are portions of the universe we'll never know in our lifetimes or any future human being's lifetime. And so why does that exist? And it's easy to say for his own glory, right? God created it in order to magnify his glory. But we also have the heavenly realm of angels who are also glorifying God, right? And presumably angels can move beyond the face of the earth, and they can be singing God's praise and adoring him for what he has made, and revealing that to him. But I also think of another way to think of this is I think about, like, what about the little tiny creature that's at the bottom of the ocean, that no one's ever going to see, and yet God made that, right? And it will exist. It'll have its entire existence go from beginning to end, and no man is ever going to see that life. That's something that is there without us recognizing it. Although we would say that part of who man is and what makes him special in terms of being made in the image of God is that we are to discover we're creative in ourselves. We're placed on earth. The passage you actually read about having these other things underneath us. Our creative role is to investigate and understand. I see ourselves as looking into the heavens, and then by identifying, seeing those things that God has made, that's the act of glorifying God, because you're saying, if you're doing it in a proper way and ascribing the creator to the created things, his responsibility, if we're giving glory to that, that's magnifying him. And bringing greater glory to God, which is something that I think that the inanimate world can't do. It's part of God's creation, but it doesn't self-reflectively actually expose God's and reveal his glory in the same way as somebody who he has a relationship with. So that's the thing that doesn't make us a speck, right? We're not a speck because God has, out of this vast universe, come down and said, like, I am going to make you my people and have a personal relationship with you. And that's just kind of mind blowing to think of that as well, that particular relationship. And let me add one other thing.
Yeah,
And
this is
totally
great.
speculative. This is very, very speculative. I've sometimes been asked, some people wonder, like, what's heaven going to be like? Like, there's this, where is heaven is a whole another question, obviously, but what would we be doing in heaven? And as a scientist myself, I have this hope, and I don't have any biblical, proof of this, right? I have this hope and idea that, in a way, the universe is so massive and so incredibly involved and complex. But in heaven, I would like to think that I could continue to explore that. That it would just be there, and that we would be able to. You think about how vast the universe is, and you have an infinite amount of time. It's like you wouldn't even still be able to plumb the depths of the entire universe. There's always something new to discover, always something new out there because of its vastness in itself. And for you and I will disagree about this, but I also find the idea of time to be part of this, right? The universe is absolutely massive, and in a way that means it's very old, but there's different interpretations of that. But I also think about God creating through time, creating through billions of years. So that goes back to, like, there's organisms that existed long ago for which we will never interact in our particular lifespan here on Earth. But that's another thing where in heaven, we may be able to appreciate his entire creation that has been developing, through his guidance over a very, very long period of time. And so there's sort of depth of time, but there's also depth of space. And when you put the two together, that vastness is just incredible.
Yeah, and for the benefit of the viewers that don't know you, can you talk about your science, your background, and a little bit about your profession?
Well, yeah, I'm a professor of biology, so I've studied biology. I always wanted to be an astronomer, so that was kind of where I went into physics. But I'm kind of lame at math, so you can't be an astronomer if you can't do math very well. But I've grown up in. My father's a pastor, and I'm obviously a believer. But being in science, there's always those questions, and so I'm very interested in questions of science and faith. And I've been involved in those types of questions for many years and explored all different aspects of that.
And you're a theistic evolutionist?
I really hate that label.
Okay.
But
what do you believe about our origin? Yeah.
I would say that an evolutionary creation model is one that I find best fits both for me, biblical evidence, theologically and scientifically, but I'm not completely bound to that in the sense that I don't have all the answers. I would never say that I know. I would just say it's consistent. The scientific evidence is consistent and is the best explanation for the things I see. But being a theist, and I'm very much a biblical literalist in the sense that I'm a very conservative Christian. I have a very high view of Scripture. And so there are certain things that I hold to be things that I think are true from scriptures that I don't necessarily can reconcile with everything that I also see in in trying to understand God's creation itself. And so wouldn't claim to have all the answers, but I would say that the best mesh of things between those two that answers the most questions for me is something like an evolutionary creation model, but I've also dabbled in old Earth creationism, and I've grown up in a young Earth creationist world. And I certainly have many friends who are young Earth creationists, and I appreciate some of the reasons why they are young Earth creationists. I just disagree in a number of ways.
It looks like we actually have a couple of questions in the chat for you. One of them is Gorgeous Roddy Chrome says, what is the issue with the descriptor theistic evolutionist?
Historically, theistic evolutionists has essentially become a deistic model in the sense that it just says God is, he sort of started everything, created all the different rules for how his world operates, and then kind of let it go, and then this is what came out of it. This is how it all happened. But it's almost like a hands-off approach. And I'm very much a high sovereignty view of God, that he's actually in control of all things. And I think there's an aspect to some people's understanding of theistic evolution, which is why I call it evolutionary creationism. That it's that can be semantics, but I find that there's a strong deistic side to theistic evolutionists, where theistic evolutionists could be a Catholic or a Mormon or a this or that, whereas I would more find myself in sort of strong historical Reformed Christianity, and that seems to identify me in a different camp that I'm not that comfortable with.
Okay. And what about this question from Satan's Little Helper? At what point did God insert souls into hominids?
I don't know, but that's a cheap out on that question.
Okay.
I will say that's an area of active interest in my point, and I'm willing to consider a number of different models for that. But I am of the opinion, this would put me apart from most theistic evolutionists, that Adam and Eve are real, and that that's the origin of the image of God, and that that's not an event that happened hundreds of thousands of years ago. And I think the significance of me saying that like that. That sets me apart from some other models.
Okay. Do you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, Dr. Joel Duff.
Okay, Dr. Joel Duff. Cool.
But don't call me doctor. Call me Joel.
Okay. All right. Godless Girl is joining the stream. Hey,
Hi.
Godless Girl.
Is that the real dark matter?
Oh, I don't know.
No.
Is there somebody in the chat?
Oh. I added that during the last stream and just haven't replaced it yet, because we were talking about babies and angels at the time. Can you prepare her?
Oh, okay.
Okay. Godless Girl, how did your debate go on Friday? Last night?
I was overly aggressive, but other than that, it went well. Hang on a second.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. Do you have thoughts about this? Do you want to share thoughts about?
I really was only watching the stream for a minute before I came in, so I mean, I know the title, what the title was.
Yeah.
But what specifically were you guys talking about right before I came in?
Well, right now we were just kind of talking about Joel's perspective on creation, but I would like to hear your thoughts about just how do you feel when you see pictures of these galaxies and everything, all the images that we're seeing from the James Webb telescope? Does it make you feel insignificant because we're so small, Earth is so small and we're so small, or does it make you feel significant?
When I think about the vastness of the universe, it makes me feel insignificant, but not when I look at the pictures. And when I look at the pictures, I'm more just in awe. But I would say we're not insignificant in the sense that we have consciousness on Earth, so that's really unique to the universe. But I don't think I don't think we have any inherent value or anything.
Do you think, like when you consider the vastness of the universe, do you think it's likely that other life forms exist, or do you think we're unique in that way?
So I hate when people try to make a claim about that, because we have no idea how likely it is for life to arise in the first place. So it doesn't matter it doesn't even matter if if the universe is infinitely large. It might still be so still be so improbable that life arises that it's crazy that we're even here, regardless of how big the universe is. Or it might be that there's life in multiple places because the universe is so large and it's only so improbable that it will arise in the first place. But since we're missing half the equation, we can't really put a probability on it.
Well, darn, Dr. Joel left, and I just wanted to kind of turn that question to him about the probability of life in the universe, because do you want to say something about that, James?
I predict that he'll be back. He didn't say goodbye, so I think he's probably just going to jump out for a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll just say that whether or not the universe is X amount big or small, or whether or not there's other people in it or not, or whether or not there's a God or not, these things don't affect how significant I feel. But I understand from a theistic perspective how they would affect how significant you feel. So it makes sense to me. I'm not negating that at all. It just, my psychology works differently, and it just isn't something that I feel like I need or would add to my existence at all.
But are you a Christian?
Oh no, I'm an atheist.
Oh, so put your feelings aside. What you don't think you're significant, aside from what I said about consciousness, right?
So, I mean, I'm significant in certain contexts. So I'm significant I'm significant to my children. I'm significant to myself. Like, I care that I exist. I value that I exist. I think it's important in the context of what I get out of life and who I am to my children and how much they need me. That feels, to remove the emotional equation for myself. I mean, their emotions still exist. And if I am
Look, you and your children, right, are just these tiny dots on this huge planet, which is just like a tiny part of this solar system, which is then just our solar system is just then a tiny dot inside like this huge galaxy, but the galaxy is actually just like this swirl among like an uncountable number of other galaxies. Like, how can you, just because you feel a certain way and your children feel a certain way, doesn't make you significant? In what sense would you be significant, like putting feelings aside?
So if I were walking along a beach, and if every single grain of sand held a civilization or a galaxy even, and in that galaxy there were many planets, and on those planets there were countless many people, just knowing that, even though I couldn't see them, I would regard them as significant. And
each one individually? Significant what would it be significant relative to what, though? The other grains of sand?
Just significant to me. Just, I value it, and I understand that they probably value themselves. And if we remove all emotion from the equation, I mean, what does significance even mean at that point? If we remove all emotional consideration, like compassion and just the value of the sentient experience, like what's left after we remove all the emotion?
Yeah, like things can be significant regardless of how anybody feels about them, like relative. So like just take the size of something, right?
Sure.
Like regardless of how anybody feels, like say the world's tallest building, even if like say everybody dies and there's no like minds left to feel any certain way about it, like the tallest building is still going to be this man-made thing that's the tallest building is still going to be significant relative to the size of the rest of the buildings on the planet.
Yeah, but
there's that sense of significance.
Sure, and there's also utilitarian significance, that something has either a small impact or a large impact on other mechanisms or other systems, and so there's that way of defining significance as well. But if you remove all the emotion, if you remove all the appreciation and awe for the existence of life from the equation, then it just doesn't matter to me how big or small anything is. That's all. It can matter to you. I'm okay with that. That's not illegitimate. It just doesn't have any resonance for me personally, what size something is.
Also, you exist for just such a tiny fraction of time.
Sure, and that's probably true. I like the idea that it's more like a block time model, so that every moment has existed since always and always will, and that our perception of linear time progressing is an illusion. So then 8-year-old me is still doing his 8-year-old stuff back in that space of time. And
Are
right
you
now,
saying that there's no past, present, and future?
so then it would all be relative. It would be like if the universe or existence was a vinyl record, and there's the needle of time playing the record, and every event in time that happens is just a needle of time playing the event. And so a prior part of the song that's no longer being played will be played again. It's still there, right? So then the vinyl album is eternal, and it's just a theory. Like, I don't know any of this for fact, but I like to think of it this way. I like to suppose that that's probably true, that this moment has always existed and will always exist. And I've always been having this conversation with you, and 8-year-old me has always been doing his 8-year-old stuff, etc. I don't know that that's true, but I like to think of it that way.
By the way, Rebecca, can I just say that I love this question that you're posing in the title?
Cool.
Go ahead.
Awesome. Well, we had 3 other people join the stream. I want to give them a chance to share their thoughts.
Yeah,
and
sure,
then
no
we'll
problem.
get to yours, Midnight. Okay, so I think Japheth was here first. Are you Japheth's daughter? Is that who your normal YouTube name is?
No. That's Jephthah. Japheth and Jephthah are 2 different names in the Bible.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes.
I've never been.
Okay.
It's my first time coming to your video.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you're right. Okay, so
he would have been the one that got off the ark with Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so do you want to share your thoughts on this topic?
Oh yeah. So I'm a Christian, right? It's insignificant. So God is Almighty, and God created humans to please Him and to glorify Him. So there is a purpose why God created man, and as long as I'm obeying, doing what God expects me to do, I'm not insignificant. Yeah, that's the question that you.
Yeah. Yep. Do you have anything else you want to say on this topic? Like before I let Jason and the news unit share their thoughts.
That's for now. I'll come in later.
Okay, cool. All right, Jason, what are your thoughts?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, first, like the Webb telescope, amazing. It's amazing technology. It's amazing that it worked. Like a lot of the scientists have said that like it's working exactly what they would expected. So that's awesome. We're gonna have like just from that image that you showed, there'll be like 100 papers that come out of that one image, that's amazing. Are we insignificant? Are we insignificant in the vast universe? Definitely we are insignificant. I mean, this image only reinforces our insignificance. And whether there's life or not, I don't know. But I mean, certainly, probabilistically, there's some form of life out there. Likely not anything like what we would expect. But I definitely think we're insignificant. I think that this new Webb telescope we're going to uncover in the next like 30 years a ton of new hypotheses around the universe. And the last thing I'll say, I saw Godless's debate on MTD last night. You destroyed that guy. He was an idiot. He wouldn't even respond to any of your questions. I would have been just as annoyed as you were. So that's my take. So.
Thanks, and thank you for being the voice of reason in the comments section too. But I wasn't actually like, that's just my personality. I wasn't actually streaming because I was angry. You see me online, so you probably know that though.
Of course, yeah. I'm the same way. Everybody's like, Jason, why are you so angry? Why are you so aggressive? I'm like, hey man, this is just how I am.
Well, you're very animated. I'll give you that.
Yeah,
you're very passionate. You're very you, Jason. Never change.
All right.
I will say that you shouldn't be a degree snob, but We can't.
That's
We can't get
fine.
everything.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyways, that's it. Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks for letting me say that.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad you saw. I was busy last night, so I couldn't watch the debate, but I plan to go back and watch it. So
Where
thanks
was
for
that at?
sharing
Just
your
so I
thoughts on
can
that. It's
so I
on
can go
modern
later.
day debate.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why the guy just wouldn't answer the question. I mean, I think he wouldn't answer the question because he knew if you're asking like direct questions, yes or no, if he answers yes or no, it's going to devolve into absurdity of his position. So he's just like refusing to answer because he knows if he did answer the question, he would lose hard. He wouldn't be able to argue his position. So I hate it when people do that.
Hi,
Cool.
Brenda.
Okay. Hi, Brenda.
Good. Let me see. Afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I wanted to hear the news unit. He's been waiting a bit, so I wanted to hear from him really quick, and then midnight, and then I would love to hear your thoughts.
Oh, okay. Well, I just noticed the title because I'm subscribed to your channel. It says, "Are we insignificant in the vast universe? Let's talk." And I really enjoy seeing open forums more on the channels where people are actually communicating. This is kind of nice.
Cool.
I've been talking recently to various diverse people. You know, it's hard to avoid diversity, and I was trying to do that as a so-called Christian, but you know, I've actually renounced my Christianity. I'm no longer a Christian. I'm trying to unindoctrinate myself from being a Christian, but I'm having a hard time doing it because I believed the Holy Bible, authorized King James Version, for so long. I was kind of like a Bible bigot, kind of like a fundamental, you know, radical, King James only, Baptist. That's what I've been all my life, you know, after being a Roman Catholic. But, you know, now I'm kind of like trying to get with other Bibles. And I noticed that universe is not in the Holy Bible authorized King James Version, but I looked it up in the NIV. And I don't know if you can screen share the verse that I'm reading. It's 1 Corinthians 4:9. Can you bring that up, or do you want me to just bring up my screen?
You have to share your script, like you have to share it.
Oh, let
before
me
I can
do it.
bring
Okay,
up.
hold on. Let me just do it real quick, and I'll get that up here real fast. There it is right there on my screen. So I'll let you screen it. But anyway, I looked up universe. It's not in the King James.
Right.
It's in the NLT, the CSB, the RSV, the Vulgate. I guess it says the I forgot what that one is. RVR 60, NIV, ESV, NET, and HNV. So I use the NIV just to make it easier because that's the one that's easier to understand.
Cool.
And it says, "For it seems to me that God has put us apostles on display at the end of the procession, like those condemned to die in the arena." So it's kind of like we're watching a parade, or we're in this procession, like a parade of people that are walking in a line. And he said that they're condemned to die in the arena. We have been made a spectacle to the whole universe, to angels as well as to human beings. So your question, are we insignificant in the vast universe, right? I don't think so, because Paul's writing here in 1 Corinthians 4:9 in the NIV. He's not insignificant. He's in the procession. And we're all a spectacle to the whole universe, as it says here, to angels as well as to human beings. Now, God created human beings, like the other guy said, Japheth, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. I was mentioning coming off the ark instead of Jephthah. But anyway, we have been made a spectacle to the whole universe, to angels as well as to human beings. So it's not just human beings. It's not just angels that are watching us. It's the universe, which would imply that there's got to be life in the whole universe that's watching us. Isn't that an interesting concept?
It is, but the only thing is I don't know if universe is a good translation there. The word
Really?
is
Why wouldn't that
cosmo.
be a good translation?
Well, it might be. It could be.
How would you know, though? I mean, as far, are you into
Well, I
scholarship?
haven't I have not looked this up at all. And so, but I'm just saying.
But what made you think that? I mean, I just want to know the thought before you lose it. Why would that be?
Can I intercede?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So I look at the Greek, right? The underlying Greek word there is cosmo, so it's a world, and world is not universe. And most of the time in the Greek context, world is community, so it's referring to human community. Yeah, cosmo is world. I don't think universe is the Greeks don't believe in other planets or inhabitants of other planets.
So what did you think, Bread of Life? Why did you think that wasn't such a good translation?
I think
Well-
cosmo should be translated as world, not universe.
Yeah, and
I'm looking at the Greek now.
But like I said, I have not looked into this, so I would have to look at how it's used in other Greek, you know, in other Greek documents and stuff. So
Like the Nestle's Greek as opposed to like the Texas Receptus, or
no. I mean sources outside of the Bible. Like how
like
is that word
commentaries?
used? Yep. So
Well, the Strong's Concordance does use the word universe when you look at the definition for the Greek cosmos. It is in there.
okay, cool.
And okay, when universe in humans only, so there is no data in the scripture that there are aliens. God has the power to create aliens, but I don't know. That's not our place for now, I think, to speculate.
Well,
Anyway.
I would say we don't have to worry about that because I don't think I think this concept of a never-ending, infinitely expanding vacuum of outer space doesn't exist at all. I think it's all just some made-up sci-fi fantasy. It's a big deal. I think it's out of many, I think it's Satan's largest deception on humanity in history. That's what I think.
What's the deception?
What exactly what you believe, that you live in this, and what Godless brought up earlier when she was talking to James, that he may be this, his life is insignificant in relation to this vast gigantic universe that is just unfathomable and hard to wrap our mind around, like the size of it all. I truly wholeheartedly believe that's Satan's largest deception.
So wait a minute, is the deception that the universe is not what it is, or is the deception that we are not insignificant?
I guess both of those things would go hand in hand. Sorry, Rebecca, did you want to say something?
Well, the main thing is I don't want to get carried away on this topic because I still want to hear from Midnight Sparkle and Brenda before we move on. And I also just wanted to respond to the news unit. Let's assume that translation universe is good. I don't necessarily think that means there are other life forms besides the spiritual beings and humans, but it could be. I have no problem with that either.
Well, the only reason I brought it up was because of your title. It says, are we insignificant in the vast universe? So I wanted to see what the scripture said about universe. And I used to believe the Holy Bible authorized King James Version was the word of God, but I don't anymore because there's so many different translations now that have been corrected. And even the NIV was written by a whole bunch of different Christian denominations to help safeguard the translation from sectarian bias. And so I looked up universe, and then it came up on that search on Blue Letter Bible. It showed the other versions had universe. So I thought it was just a good correlation with your question. And I thought, Paul was writing here, and he talks about being in a procession, condemned to die in the arena. And he's been made a spectacle to the whole universe, which to me kind of grasps the question that you ask in such a manner where everybody is on display and is a spectacle to the whole universe. And I just thought that was very appropriate to the question that you were asking in your title. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool. I like that. I like that point. And it does speak to our significance. But I'm wondering, since you don't really believe the Bible anymore, do you still?
It's very simple because you said, I don't believe the Bible anymore. That implies a Bible singular. I believe in all of the mixed multitude of Bibles and all the diversities of doctrine, because the Holy Spirit, of course, gives us diverse. He divides all these different diverse gifts for us, the diverse doctrines that we all have, right?
Okay, so you still do believe in.
I believe the concept of Christianity, but I'm trying to indoctrinate
cool.
myself from a lot of the weird, too legalistic. I want to be more open to receive, kind of like a unity and diversity a little bit more, because I want to love everybody more. because it's too much hatred
Cool.
that's been shown by Christians. I think that we should just love everybody and just be more receptive to their
I
ideas and
love you
opinions.
using it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All
What's
right,
that, God? It's
Midnight.
midnight.
It's your
Go ahead. I'll let
Midnight. You
him
want
go.
to
Go ahead.
share? Yeah.
Yes, yes. I think I actually wrote what I want to say down, so there's less stutter. So I'll just read it. I don't see as this insignificant when you consider how much effect a small part can have on the whole. We have created empires which have shaped the world and the environment around us. We have cured diseases. We have given those with disabilities the chance to live happy lives. Humans are as insignificant as they see themselves as. I believe we have significance in the universe and to each other. There you go. Short and sweet.
Awesome. Nice, Midnight. I like that.
Yeah, good
Brenda,
job.
what are your thoughts?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Having some granola here, and puttering about in the house. So, for me, significance is just being significant to somebody, right? So we aren't significant to the universe because the universe isn't a person, right? And so we're significant to somebody that we care about, that we love, right? Somebody that's in our life. So that's how we have significance. And I don't see any problem with the atheist getting significance from the people that they care about and that they love that are in their lives. So an atheist can have significance in their life.
Okay, I may be biased, but I like my answer better.
Yeah, that's okay.
Cool.
I mean, you could look at it like statistical significance as well. Like, are humans, are we as a race, as the earth, etc., do we have a significant impact on the universe? And as the universe gets larger, our understandings of the universe and how many stars there are, etc., grow, then our ability to influence that become less and less and less. So from a significant standpoint, from that perspective, we're definitely insignificant. We may consider ourselves significant, but the mass of the universe kind of implies that we are insignificant.
We are significant in the solar system as being the only planet with life. We might be the only planet in the galaxy with life. I mean, with intelligent life. There might be microbes on other systems, but it might be the case that life is so rare statistically that our planet is currently the only one that harbors intelligent life. That's a possibility.
Sure.
It's certainly the only one in our solar system that harbors life. So there is a statistical significance there.
Yeah. Okay, I would agree with that, because you could say if the null hypothesis is like about existence of life, it could be that given the rarity of life on our planet, that we are significant in that respect. So yeah, I can see that. Yeah. I would agree.
All right, so I didn't come with hardcore numbers, but I just want to throw this out there because Godless Girl was talking about, we don't really know what the chances are of life arising by natural processes, but there are some things that we can calculate statistically, like, the probability maybe of like amino acids stringing themselves together in such a way, to create a protein. So we already know that is very statistically improbable. So just based on that one thing alone, like, what do you guys think about like the, life arising and the chances, even with all this space and stars and opportunities for, our existence or something like it?
Yeah, so and it also takes that's improbable for the proteins to happen. Then it takes a lot more very improbable events that we don't actually know the probability of to get like DNA from protein. So Jason, I actually agreed with everything you said, except that the universe is so big or whatever that there's probably life out there. Because it might be so unlikely that life arises in the first place that it's like, even if you have an infinite number of time, it's like a monkey banging out, a Shakespeare novel by banging on a keyboard. That's how unlikely it could be. So it might be like practically miraculous that it even happened once here on Earth.
But given the size of the universe, I think that the likelihood of there being a life, and that term life is very vague because our definitions of life, like that's you have to define what is life. And I think that there are a variety of differing interpretations of what life is. But I think that just given the size of the universe, that there undoubtedly is some form of life somewhere, even if it's like some non-sentient, life form, organism, whatever, non-carbon based. I don't know.
How far does the universe go out, Jason? How far do you think it goes?
I think it's like 9 billion.
It's a good
miles or
question.
something.
I think that lots of
9 billion
astrophysicists
light
are
years.
hesitant to say because we only know about the known universe given the speed of light and the visible universe. So that's a really good question. I don't know.
Is there a point where you get outside to this point where there's nothing outside, like a wall or something or whatever? Like, is that it?
I mean, nobody really knows. I know you're asking Jason, but
yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I don't think there's a wall, but I mean, I think that understanding the extent of our universe is a topic that has been highly debated and researched. So I'm not sure I have a good question or a good answer for that.
But I mean, if you look at it, if you look like a number line on an X and a Y axis, we'll take the X axis to make it easier, left to right. You got 0 in the middle, pluses to the right, negatives to the left, and you keep going each way. You can that goes on infinity, right? I mean, you can never stop. You can always add numbers, but can you add space to the universe, or is it just a finite thing? Or what is it?
Yeah, I mean, only thing I'll just say one thing, and then I'll let other people talk. Like the concepts of space-time and the aspects of the curvature of space are very interesting because when we start to think about space and time being connected, then the issues of cause and effect or a beginning and an end start to break down and to say, well, is there an actual beginning of the universe? Was there a time when the universe began? Is there a physical space limit to the universe? Those things start to not necessarily make sense if we start to think that time isn't necessarily always linear in the manner that we think about it, and time is related to space. So it starts to kind of break down our logical way of thinking on those topics.
There's not a lot of Christians here, I don't think, based on what I heard, but Rebecca's a Christian. Rebecca, do you think God dwells outside of time? Are you one of the Christians that believe that? Because I know a lot of people talk about that.
No, I don't think he does.
Can I say something?
Dogmatic about this. Yeah.
Most people say that God dwells outside of time, and I don't understand what that means.
Can I say something here?
I gotta run real quick, but I'll be listening. I'm sorry. Thank you, Rebecca.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Bye.
If the universe is everything, then there's nothing that can be outside of the universe because there's nothing that would not be everything. Right? Mm-hmm. If the universe is just everything that there is, then you can't have anything that is outside of that, right? That would just be a logical way of thinking about it.
If that's how we're defining universe, but that's why a lot of people use the term cosmos as the larger or the complete whole of all that is, and they differentiate that from universe usually in order to allow for the possibility that our known universe isn't all that there is, just in case it isn't. So we have these two different terms. But yeah, I mean, if you define universe that way, then sure.
Yeah. So the universe would include God. Universe would include God because God is part of everything.
No, that's pantheism.
I wouldn't use the term universe. So God is part of reality. So there is the reality of God, and when God created the universe, reality expands.
Yeah, and what Brenda brought up earlier about God being everything, like as if he's like the sum of all parts, that's what's known as like pantheism. I believe in a monotheistic God, and that there's a distinction and distinguishment between the creator and the creation, just like we see with everything else. Like I would never say this computer I'm using is the engineer that made it. I would never say the car I'm driving is the manufacturer that that produced it. I would never say the clothes I wear on my body are the fashion designer who created it. There's always a distinction between the creator and creation. And so in this sense, for the earth and the universe, there would be also a distinction between God, our heavenly Father, the creator of all things, and his creation that he made with nature, and life and stuff like that.
Oh, so you misunderstood me. I didn't say God is everything. I said God would be one part of the set of everything. So we're doing this conceptually. We're saying that if you take everything that is and put it into like the set, we're going to call that set the universe. God would be a part of that because God exists, right? I'm not saying that God
is a bad. I think it's a flawed term. I think I would reframe it and use reality. So God is part of reality, but the universe is different.
You're just using a different word. What we mean by universe is the set of everything.
Well, I think when we say universe, we kind of mean the physical reality, right?
That's why Jason properly brought up the idea that physicists will often say cosmos to refer to our particular universe. So
the reason why I want to separate this is because in some sense, I believe in a digital physics theory of the universe. The Bible somewhat conveys that in Hebrews 1:3, Jesus upholds everything by the word of God the Father. So we live in like a digital simulation, but God Himself is the machine that upholds all things. So with this position, every miracle in the Bible can be explained.
How is
digital
that?
Physics theory.
How does that explain miracles?
Well, if you think we are in a video game, right? If you can create a video game where you can program a character to fly, yeah, we are in a digital simulation, and God is the computer.
I don't understand how that refutes miracles, though.
No, that's not refute. Explains. I am a Christian.
Yeah, Brenda, aren't you an atheist?
Yeah, but I don't understand. Okay, a miracle is
something that breaks physical law. Something that breaks the standard physical law.
Right. So, getting access to cheat codes is still obeying a law.
Sure, but okay. When I say miracle in a common term, it means, for example, somebody has a cancer and miraculously healed, right? That's a miracle. So that there is a higher law above that. Yes. But when I say a miracle, we are using the common understanding of the term miracle.
I mean, like in that example, that a miracle. Like I'm trying to reconcile what you were saying before, the video game, God. Like I can understand, like as in a video game, like there are rules to the video game, but the programmer could technically change the rules.
Yes, it's a cheat. There's a higher rule above the standard rule.
Okay, so in our world, a miracle is not a situation where it's outside of the rules of the world. It's just an unknown phenomena. Like somebody had their cancer healed. It's unknown potentially how that cancer was healed. But we're not necessarily, I mean, you may be saying this, but I think most people would say that the cancer went away has a naturalistic explanation, but we just don't understand what that was.
No, I mean, under digital physics theory, every divine operation in the Bible can be explained. That's what I'm trying to say.
Naturally.
Oh, okay. So natural is the standard rule, right? So when you access the divine rule, you can ignore the standard rule already. So
okay,
it's like a video game.
But you would agree there's no evidence of any divine rule. We've never observed anything like that. We don't have any way of knowing that. This is just speculation that there's a divine rule.
Okay, I'm a Bible literal. So I believe everything that is stated in the Bible and all the miracles in it. So if the digital physics theory is true, that it can explain every divine operation in the Bible.
Yeah, well, you can say you can explain it, but you don't have any actual way you don't have any methodology of explaining it. All you're just saying is, I think that God is the divine maker of the universe, and of this miracle that occurred in the Bible, God is the one that made that happen, but you don't actually have any evidence to suggest that. You're just that's you're just speculating.
To explain, that will be another different topic, and that will be a long one. Fine.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not arguing with you. I was just trying to understand your position. So yeah.
Guys, I wanted to put up this question from Joe and see what your thoughts are. Is significance good?
It depends. If I'm significant to a serial killer, I think that is very bad. I don't want his attention and focus.
Okay, so give me examples of significance being good.
That God created us for a purpose. You know, we're here for a reason.
That I am loved and valued by the other people in my life. That would be significance being good.
Right. So these are all expressions of good versus bad feelings. Significantly good feelings versus significantly bad feelings.
I mean, when we say significant, we like generally is a synonym for that important.
I'm using it as marked, significant as in marked, as in, but it's still subjective, right? Like it's just how you feel about it. Something either feels very good or it doesn't. Something either feels very bad or it doesn't. So,
like,
you know,
like a significant event in my life is an event that stands out, that is distinct from other events that could have been negatively significant or positively significant, but it's separate from the other events. It has a distinct nature from the other events in my life.
well, sure. And this is why if you look at the other people in the chat can't see this, but you see I posted earlier ways to be significant. One, rare versus common. Another way is big versus small. Another way is much effect versus little effect.
Sure.
Another way, and then the other 4, 5, and 6 are just about emotion, really. Valued by others, valued by self, or valued by a deity. So these are different ways that we can speak about the idea of significant. And
yeah.
So
yeah, I liked how you put that in the private chat, James. I just couldn't put it up because it's in the private chat. So, but I wanted to highlight that comment. Yeah, I like that you kind of broke it down for us.
Yeah, that's actually good. I forgot about values myself.
I put it in the other chat. I copy pasted into the other chat.
Cool. Okay.
Another way of thinking about it is influential. So, like, how influential is an event or an outcome or an object with regards to whatever hypothesis that you're exploring? So, was it like, so are we impactful in the universe? You could say we are insignificant in that respect but it may be that, like, given the fact of like sentient life, maybe we are significant because we stand out. We are unique in terms of the life that we think so.
Well, this is the Anthropocene, so we are impactful. We're killing off species left and right.
Well, but I'm saying, like,
what I said, yeah.
We're impactful on the Earth, but like if you consider the vastness of the universe, we're not impactful.
No, not the Earth, but definitely just the Earth. We're definitely impactful here.
Agreed.
Well, now hang on. We sent 2 Voyagers off into space. How do we know what those 2 spacecrafts will impact they will have 100 years from now, or, like, you know what I mean?
Sure, you're talking about like the butterfly effect, except with mechanical butterflies.
Well, but I
guess literally, I didn't think of it that way. I'm just saying, you know, like we sent 2 things into space. We don't know what the impact they're gonna have. How they could have been destroyed by the sun, by a sun for all I know. You know what I mean, by a star.
Keep in mind, though, like as an example, I forget which one of the Voyagers or there's 2 of them, Voyager and then another one that they won't reach another star system for like 100,000 years. So, like,
but they may still have an impact on, like in the universe somehow. Like, yeah, they won't.
No, I don't think so.
But that's like saying, like, will a grain of sand have impact?
Well, I like to be optimistic and think of the future. So, that's just me.
I mean, it's not impossible. They could. I'm just saying, what is the likelihood of that? I think it's small.
Yeah.
Well, they could be picked up by an alien civilization, and they could decode it and say,
"There you go.
Oh, tasty humans. I need a snack."
No.
I mean,
Okay,
it's
we'll probably
possible.
we'll probably be long dead, but by the time an alien species picks it up.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, you guys know the problem with any of that speculation, I think is useless and unproductive, because when you realize the truth of our cosmology, you'll see that this Earth that we live in is the only plane of existence, like in reality. There's no such thing as other universes or other galaxies
We're
or
not
other
talking. Wait,
You don't know. You don't know
anything
that.
else.
wait,
That's
We've
just
directly
speculation.
seen other galaxies. You can
Wait,
see another
wait,
galaxy in the
okay,
night sky
I
with
will.
a simple telescope. So you'd have to
Yeah.
explain what that is if you're going to argue that it's not a galaxy, even though it is, because
Well,
we can
wait,
look at
wait.
it and see that it's plainly a galaxy.
Okay, I can give him. I can hold
those
on.
are
Hold on.
heavenly
I can.
Well, I was
luminaries.
asking the flat earther.
Oh, so he's a flat earther.
Yeah, and I'm
Obviously.
kind of curious about that, Rebel
you?
Nazarene.
Okay, well
when you
then, never
look in the
mind. I'm
sky
gonna
and you
mute.
see galaxies and star clusters and things like that, how do you interpret that? What's your thought about that?
Well, I mean, when you use the term galaxy, that's just the term you're putting on what you're seeing in the sky. You're still
Yeah,
down
no
here
shit.
you're still down here on Earth, so
Yeah,
you
well,
don't
that
actually
doesn't
know what
confound
it is
anything that I
unless you
said.
actually go up there
Well, we
yourself
do know what it is. We
and
can look
figure
at it
out
and see what it is.
So the way I explain that is that they are just simply lights or heaven luminaries shining from heaven. It's not this. They're not balls of fiery gas, like clumped up
Oh,
Well,
together.
no,
in
that's
an
not what
active
galaxies
space.
are. So,
Because
so
if
you're
any
correct. That's not
understanding
what
of
galaxies
physics,
are.
you would realize that gas cannot clump up.
I would bet, and I'm sure everybody else here would bet large sums of money that I have a significantly deeper understanding of physics than you could probably ever.
Yeah,
hope
I'll
to
take
have.
that. I'll take that bet. I'll probably wait. Hold on.
Sure, we'll take the bet. But what's
No,
the
I
bet
think
about?
I'll win because I'll bet on you.
Well, maybe this is something for a debate at an. Well, okay, it's up to Rebecca, I guess. I shouldn't say.
Yeah, we're not really going to have a flat Earth debate here. So I think.
Well, I wasn't trying to debate the flat Earth. I was just trying to ask if this thing that we can see in the sky that has a distinct structure and it's not a star, because we know what stars are because those also have a distinct structure. What is it that we're looking at? When you say, well, it's just a light. Sure, I could grant that, but what is that light and what's emitting it?
Well, the majority of us here and the majority watching believe the scientific observations that we've labeled as
do you,
stars
Rebecca?
and
Don't you
galaxies.
think that the entire universe is like 6,000 years old?
I don't know the age of the universe.
I do believe it's about 6,000 years old.
I mean, also.
I mean, because if it were 6,000 years old, how is it that we can see light from galaxies billions of light years away, which means it took billions of years to get here? And if we haven't even been here for 100,000 years, we wouldn't see it.
That's a random number you just
Great
came
question.
up with.
That's
I don't have an answer.
That's
Not a
assuming
random
God is not powerful enough to create universe billions of years apart at the same time.
Yeah, but it would still take the light billions of years to get here. So he could create the universe that vast, but it's still going to take light that amount of time to get here.
When God created the universe in the first day, that light could be billions of years apart already. How do you know?
He means that God created the light. He means that God created the light in place, sort of.
Yes.
So God created the light to appear to us in a way that it's not. So God is deceitful.
No. Basically, when God created the universe with different galaxies, right? It's all the light. You're assuming Big Bang as a young of creation. I
don't assume the Big Bang like we know that it happened.
So if Big Bang is not true, then we don't have to assume that light has to come from one place and spread out, right?
Sure, but the Big Bang is true.
Okay, I don't take that presupposition. So that wasn't deceiving.
It's not really a presupposition. It's just what's the most parsimonious explanation given the data that we have available to us.
Yeah, it's more parsimonious than to say God did it. So because you have no evidence for a God, but we do have extensive amounts of evidence around the speed of light. And what Leo's talking about of being able to see back into the past based on the distant light, we have a huge amount of hypotheses and testable experiments that prove that. So I guess I don't see how that is less or more complex than the God hypothesis, given that we don't really have any evidence for God.
Just look outside your window,
Wait,
James.
are we saying that the evidence for the scale of the universe like depends on assuming the Big Bang? That's not true, right? I think that's what I mean, because you have like things like Cepheid variables, Doppler effects, and so on. Like that's much stronger than the evidence for the Big Bang. I mean, the Big Bang is disputed by some people, right? Like there's like no boundary condition theories and so on.
But none of those presume that the universe wasn't very early in its evolution in an extremely hot and extremely dense state. That's all the Big Bang says. With respect to what existed prior to that state, or what that state may have evolved out of, if it did, which, well, it did evolve out of the inflationary epoch. But what precedes that, we don't know. But there is nothing that will ever confound the data with respect to the universe very early in its evolution being in a very hot and very dense state. And that is what the hot Big Bang model is.
Right. So what's in dispute is something like a singularity versus something. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yes, most cosmologists would say that, most physicists and mathematicians would say that a singularity isn't like a physical object. It didn't really make sense. And that what is referred to as the initial cosmological singularity will eventually fall away under a quantum description of gravity.
I mean, Hubble and what's the other guy, Lemaitre, those guys that discovered, the redshift topic. I mean, that's been like almost 100 years ago, or maybe 80 years ago. So that is like the science on that is well established. So I don't know how
we have precisely measured redshift.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know how you could say that like our understandings of the distances of universes, how long it took the light to get here, that therefore we're looking into the past. I feel like
even Jason Lyle, who is a PhD astrophysicist and a young Earth creationist, doesn't deny that the universe is expanding and that we can measure that via redshift. I also wanted to say, Otangelo, I think was he said, he tagged you, Jason. He says, what defines the speed of light? It is not grounded in any deeper physical principle. That's just straightforwardly false.
What the hell?
Largely C as a constant is probably, it probably comes from the fine structure constant, which is more fundamental to electrodynamics than the speed of light. But what defines the speed of light, there's actually an equation which does that. That's C equals the square root of 1 over epsilon naught mu naught, where epsilon naught and mu naught are particular constants of electromagnetism.
Interesting.
But isn't it true that, I mean, modulo what you said about the fine structure constant, like, isn't it, I always thought that, I mean, you still have to empirically measure the speed of light, right?
No.
Just like no? Okay. So you can compute it from the fine structure constant, and the fine structure constant is a arbitrary constant.
Well, it was initially computed from just sort of mathematical entailments of the Maxwell-Heaviside equations, but with respect to like quantum electrodynamics and things, the fine structure constant is just more fundamental, and so
right. But Leo, couldn't you
speed of light.
But couldn't you, like, if I remember right, like you can always reverse it, right, and say that, look, I mean, epsilon naught is like the permittivity of free space or something like that, right, which is some kind of arbitrary constant. So you could replace it and say, well, you start from C and you can work out epsilon naught. So is that, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I don't know about that. That would be a question for like a physicist. I don't know if you could work it backward. My assumption would be probably not.
Okay, fair enough.
Hey guys, okay, since we're getting all sciencey, okay, I want to bring up this paragraph that was in the article I was reading from and see what your thoughts are about it, okay? So this says, so part of the problem is age. The galaxies in the JWST deep field and the stars they contain are not like what we see in the sky. They're billions and billions of years older, especially those most ancient red smudges photographed in their youth, in the universe's youth, would be chemically quite different from the Milky Way. The first stars formed from the remnants of the Big Bang with just hydrogen and helium to work with. Planets form from the same material as their stars, but those light elements aren't enough for worlds that can host life as we know it, or possibly planets at all. For life as we know it to exist, Sharf said, built out of elements like carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen, the universe had to have reached a certain age where enough of those elements had been made by stars. Now, I want to just share my thoughts on this, and then you guys can react to it. Because when I read this, I'm like, wow. First of all, I don't think that those elements were made in the stars. And so I'm like, this is really interesting.
What?
That they're admitting that these galaxies, because they're younger would have had to be, we should be looking at galaxies that are very different from our own. And so I would like to know if you guys discovered that those galaxies that we're looking at in that deep field are actually very similar to the Milky Way in composition. Would that change your idea?
I mean, I would ask the source of the
No.
About
article
the universe
first.
and the Big Bang?
I just wouldn't have I don't think any cosmologist would have an expectation of them to look like the Milky Way, because why would they? They were formed billions of years,
But
you know,
Leo, she's
earlier.
saying that
So,
but Leo, that's
actually,
what she's saying. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, actually, the Milky Way is like, it's only like, it's 13.2 billion years old. It's one of the oldest galaxies we know of, actually, is the one that we inhabit.
By the way, how fast is the Milky Way galaxy moving through space? Does anyone know?
About 2.5 million miles per hour.
Okay, so 2.5 million. That's a pretty fast speed, if you ask me.
Of
But
course.
why? Right. So why is it that we see the same exact star constellations every single night for all of recorded history? If we're
Well, we
moving through
don't.
space? No, we surely do, actually. That's why we have
No, we
constellations,
can see them
and we
moving.
can
Thousands
predict.
of years ago, the night sky would have looked different than it is today. In fact, this has actually been directly mapped.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Rebel
Vega.
Nazarene, you're taking us off
Vega
the topic.
used to be the
I
North
want to
Star, I think,
know
at some point.
what you guys think. If we discovered that those galaxies that we're looking at that are billions of years younger, supposedly, if we discovered that they're the same chemical composition as the Milky Way, would it change your view?
They're not
about
billions
the
of
Big Bang?
years younger. We're seeing them as they were billions of years ago because it's taken the light that long
Well,
to get here.
Okay, I
Right.
misspoke. But
So
you understand the concept.
Let me answer the question. So if that were the case, then we would have a situation that may not be, that would be in contradiction to some of our understandings of the universe. That would be an unknown. We would be like, wow, that's very interesting. Why is that the case? And we would explore that. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean,
But Rebecca, I mean, the truth is, we have to admit, right, that if that's true, then we have to reevaluate the evidence for young Earth creationism. I mean, it would raise the probability by some small amount.
Cool.
I don't even know if it would. I don't know if it would do that, but I would just say that it would. Just like oftentimes in science, we discover something that turns science on its head, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we say, therefore it must be God. We just say this is an unknown thing, something that we thought we understood. We didn't understand it as good as we thought we did. We need to explore this more to see if we can explain it.
I mean,
That's it.
Okay, I guess I'll go. I do have a question. I guess the question being asked is if we find like younger or galaxies that are older than us with the same chemical composition as the ones as ours. Is that what's
Well, what I'm asking, and Leo was right to point out, I misspoke when I said it was younger. I'm saying because we are looking, the light from those galaxies is we're just seeing the light from them, but we're seeing them as they were billions of years ago. So we're looking at them in their younger age. So they shouldn't be the same chemical composition as the Milky Way. So if we found out that they were the same chemical composition, would that change your idea about the Big Bang and about,
Yes. For me, it would just tell us that these elements just developed earlier than we thought, much earlier than we thought. And then we would work to figure out what mechanisms would be responsible. You see, finding an observation that confounds a current scientific model does not all of a sudden, oh well, everything we thought we knew was 100% completely wrong and had to be God. That's not how it works. That is not ever how it's worked. It's, we got something wrong, but we only had a limited data set to work from. Now that we have a larger data set, we can incorporate more data and we can modify our conclusions to match that data and then continue forward until that probably inevitably happens again, because this is how science works. It isn't that, there's something that confounds the model's completely wrong and it has to be God. That's just
Leo,
not how it works.
I do have a question, and correct me if I'm wrong. But isn't every star composed of the same elements, like hydrogen, helium, and all those things? I mean, yeah, they're called chemical furnaces for a reason, because over time they do produce the heavier elements. But like, you know what I mean? You're the expert here, not expert. You get the point. You know what the fuck you're talking about. Please answer.
I mean, there's a sense in which I think the answer could be yes, but it's just gonna stellar chemical composition is gonna vary between the size of the star, the age of the star, of all of these things. The sun is what is it? Because in fact, you corrected me on this like a year ago, midnight. The sun, was it a second or a third generation star?
Our sun is a third generation star, right?
The second generation,
the second generation created all the elements that we have inside us right now. It exploded. It created a gas cloud, which over time, which I honestly find interesting. It only took 100 million years for the star debris to form our solar system. 100 million years is a second in the universe time. You know what I mean? Not even a second.
There was one thing I wanted to say quickly to Otangelo in the chat, because again, this just isn't correct. So he says, since the speed of light in a vacuum did not change after numerous repeated experiments done to measure it, so it has been accepted as a constant. Why does it not change? Nobody knows. Well, because it's a constant, that's why. He says then it has the intrinsic property without scientific explanation. No.
Okay.
The speed of light, just quickly here, the speed of light is effectively given by the structure of an oscillating electromagnetic field in the bare vacuum of space. And that will never change. The rate at which those oscillations propagate through that field in the bare vacuum of space does not change.
Well,
it is a fundamental property of reality. Okay, and it's not even just the electromagnetic field. The gluon field, we always hear from these creationists, well, the speed of light, but they never bring about all the problems that would arise in quantum chromodynamics, because gluons are also massless force carriers and also move at the same speed. But we never hear about all the problems that should arise in quantum chromodynamics as a result of that we certainly don't see, because these things are certainly constant.
Okay. Leo, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't light slow down when it goes through certain mediums? Like the reason why light is, the reason why light goes 300 million kilometers per hour in space is because there is no medium, there is no medium that slow it down. They used to think that the ether existed, but that turned out to be bullshit. You know what I mean?
Well, yes, photons scatter off of electrons, so anytime they are introduced to some medium containing electrons or matter, they will scatter, and that will thereby change. Their speed doesn't change, their trajectory changes. So they're still moving at c in vacuum between the interactions. It's just that as a result of those interactions, they sort of jump between all of the electrons, and so it takes the photon longer to propagate through that medium, but the actual speed at which the actual photon actually propagates in vacuum in the electromagnetic field between the interactions is still exactly c.
Well, that's
okay. Guys, let me just interrupt this argument, and I want to hear Sal's thoughts about our significance in the universe, and maybe if you want to say anything about the origin of life, Sal.
Oh, thank you. I'm here mostly for moral support. Rebecca said, hey, we're starting a stream on this. As far as the significance in the universe, I'll quote one of my professors, the supplementary quantum mechanics, James Treffel. He has a Wikipedia page. He's a well-known science teacher, professor of physics. And he said all that I'm paraphrasing this as close as I can. He said, all that we've learned in the last several years about our place in the universe. He said, I'm not a religious man, but if I were, I'd say all that we've learned about the universe in the last several years would say we are special, we are unique and therefore special in God's sight. And that sentiment does echo a lot. So, we also know that we live in a special time. This is the one time in the universe's history, if you accept the Big Bang, which I don't, but let's say for the sake of argument, this is the one time in the universe's history where science can really work. That's according to Lawrence Krauss. If you want, I can quote that. As far as abiogenesis, it's looking more like either a delusional or fraudulent industry. They use experiments where there's lots of human intervention, and then they pretend that this is what happens in natural environments. And that's why I reject it. And a lot of people, more and more people, including Nobel Prize winner Richard Smalley, the late Richard Smalley, is rejecting the whole enterprise. They are not going to solve it because it does not accord with operational chemistry and physics. It's a delusion. So I don't know.
Wow, that's a hell of
I
a
have to
conspiracy.
pose the question: what would convince you that we're special or that a miracle happened? And some people will say nothing will, and that's an honest answer. Now, if they say it has to be something we can run an experiment on and control and predict according to our whims, it's like, well, then you're God. And that's not going to work. And if you're not going to believe, that's okay, but just admit it. So that's pretty much what I had to say. Thanks, Rebecca, for having me on and inviting me.
Cool. All right. Thanks. All right.
Right.
I'm releasing the wolves. Go ahead. Attack everything Sal just said.
Oh, I like Sal. I
when
wouldn't
do I
attack it.
start?
I didn't hear most of it. I ran to the bathroom.
Yeah, you
quick.
really should. Or have him repeat it because it's a doozy. I'm gonna mute.
Basically,
the thing-
Big
Oh,
Bang
go
isn't
ahead, Jim.
true, and Big Bang isn't true, and abiogenesis isn't true either. It's all
Well, if the Big Bang isn't true, I mean, I would just tell the cosmologist that.
Leo, you know Big Bang Theory was invented by a Roman Catholic priest, right? You're aware
Well,
of
it
that?
wasn't invented by a Roman Catholic priest.
That's who it's credited
there were,
to, though.
excuse me, I know the history quite well. It was the fact that the universe is undergoing an expansion, and then the idea of extrapolating that backward to a universe that would have been significantly denser and hotter in its past was an idea initially developed by Georges Lemaitre. The fact that he was a Jesuit priest doesn't mean anything. It would be no different than pointing out that he was also French? That doesn't matter. Did you know that Yang, in the Yang-Mills theory, which underlies pretty much all of gauge field theory and quantum field theory, was Asian? Except that it doesn't matter, does it?
So why? Tell me this: why would a Jesuit priest read in the very first?
I don't really
page-
care what he
I
would
didn't
do.
ask my
what
question
he did.
yet.
It just doesn't
I didn't
matter.
ask my question yet. Yeah.
Yeah, because your question doesn't matter. I'm sorry.
Right.
So
Just-
Wait, why does this question
since-
not matter?
because
Let's
Leo
hear it.
thinks Leo thinks he lives on a tiny speck of dust hurling and gyrating through infinite black void of space.
Wait a
He
minute, what do
inherently
you-
thinks his life
what-
doesn't matter. That's the
what
problem,
do you,
Rebecca.
Rebel? What do you think the
I
Earth
love the
is?
ad hominems.
Wait. No, I don't want to ask him that question because he's already told us his perspective, and I don't want to get into a flat
Okay.
Earth
That's
discussion
fine.
here.
But Rebecca,
Alright.
it's
So Leo
inherently
asked.
about the same topic.
Leo didn't hear what I said. I'll just try to repeat out of courtesy to him. I quoted my professor of supplementary quantum mechanics, James Treffel, George Mason. He has a Wikipedia entry. He's a big advocate of dark matter, but he said in the book, Are We Alone?, which talks about extraterrestrials, he says, if I were a religious man, I would say that everything we have learned about life in the past 20 years shows that we are unique and therefore special in God's sight. So that sentiment does prevail. You can't run away from it. You can try to explain it away, but that sentiment prevails. And I could also quote the one from Lawrence Krauss that talks about us being in a special time. So, are we in a special place in history? Yes. Are we in a special universe? Yes.
Did you know that
James to what standard?
That's fine. James Treffel's got a paper called "Intelligent Design Has No Place in the Science Curriculum."
Apparently it does.
Oh yes, I'm well aware of that. And he gave a
Okay.
talk
All right. Cool.
criticizing intelligent design. And in that meeting, I stood up. I said, Dr. Trefl, it's great to see you again. And do you have a problem having students who are ID proponents? Because I don't know if you knew this, but when I was your student, I was a creationist. He said, that's fine. And he told the audience, by the way, Sal got an A in my class.
Okay. What is that?
Well, he's just responding to what I said. That's cool. I mean, I just was looking up this guy. So I think that's fine.
I also think that it's worth pointing out that it seemed in I don't know if he said it was a quote or a sentiment or what have you that he expressed. If I recall correctly, that he said, if I were a religious person, which maybe he is, and he's just sort of speaking from like an outside perspective looking in, then he would say those things. And I agree. I think most religious people, maybe not all, but certainly most religious people would probably hold that humans are special. But I just don't have that presupposition. I'm not religious.
Right. A lot of and I respect everything that Sal says. I understand the sentiments behind it, but I'm not religious either. So the religious narratives that he couches everything in just aren't true from my perspective.
I think humans are special too. But I believe in evolution. So I guess we share that in common, Sal. Kind of.
I think humans are special with respect to their own internalized standards, but I don't think there's any objective sense in which anything is valuable. I don't know what it means to say that something, well, because I take things like value, purpose, meaning, those are going to be normative terms to me, and I just don't take that there are any stance independent normative facts. So value just all across the board is not, I'm just not going to see it as being objective.
It's not objective.
So someone could say your life is as valuable as a cockroach then?
Somebody could say what?
That your life is as valuable as a cockroach?
Yeah, they could say that. I disagree because I probably have different normative values than they do.
Such a bleak question. Jesus.
Well, so, one doesn't affect the other. Well. So one person can think your life isn't valuable. A sociopath can think your life's not valuable.
There are people that think Jews aren't valuable.
Yeah, and you can think your life is valuable.
Wow, you have to go
but I think that they are.
Wow, Leo, you have to go there.
Black people aren't valuable, but I think that they are. Like, there are already people who think that there are not just an individual, but whole demographics of humans that genuinely don't have more value than a cockroach.
That's because you guys are coming from an atheistic, nihilistic worldview.
Well, atheism doesn't entail nihilism, so I don't know why you're connecting those two.
Okay, I'm sorry, Rebel, but your question was actually nihilistic, so please don't project.
No, if you guys don't believe in a supreme God as an objective moral lawgiver, then yeah, you can come up with all these different subjective views for value.
I mean, what's it even worth having?
Wrong with that, though.
What's it even worth having this hypothetical objective moral lawgiver when the billions of different people who profess to believe in an objective moral lawgiver can't agree on what the objective moral laws even are? Like, what's it worth? You still end up with just as much variation between theists as you do between atheists about what morals are supposed to be and what they're not supposed to be. So how are you ahead at all?
Well, that's why God wrote it down. Yeah.
I also don't understand how morality being rooted in God somehow makes it objective. God is a subject, and morality is just what he just chooses to dictate. So I don't.
So hold on. I want to, as a theist, right? I believe morality is subjective, but what is objective is Christianity is the legal requirement. So God has the ability to change the law. So in some sense, so human can choose not to comply, but the punishment is hell. So I'm fine with morality being subjective, but God's law is objective, has an objective requirement. That is the difference.
Tangelo, I would like to hear your thoughts on the topic of our significance or insignificance in the universe. How do you feel when you see these pictures that have come out from the James Webb telescope?
Yes, hello everyone. Hello, Rebecca. This is a good question, and I think that we are about in the middle when it in regards of size. If we compare the size of an atom and the size of the universe, then we are about in the middle of this spectrum. And I think that the size has no meaning in regards of meaningfulness. We are the unique and only conscious and intelligent beings able to recognize and comprehend math and calculus and language and using the laws of logic. And so I think we are special. And that, of course, gives us a special place in this universe. And everything indicates that we are actually the only beings alive in the entire universe. So this is another indication.
Well, but wait a second. So first of all, we don't really have a clear understanding of like whether life exists on many planets. We only know a very, 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 very small percentage of what actually exists in the universe. Very small. So to say, we're the only life. We're just the only life of the planets and solar systems that we can actually make an assessment on, and that's just infinitesimally small. So we just don't know, I would say.
I have a question for Otangelo. It's somewhat off topic.
Let me answer
go ahead.
to Jason, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
There are, of course, giving a precise number of what the odds are for having a life-permitting planet like ours is not possible. But we have parameters. We know what is required to have a life-permitting universe, and we know what parameters that are necessary to have a life-permitting planet. And the odds, they are so gigantically huge. And I think Hugh Grossi gives over 1,000 different parameters. I don't know if that is true. I don't know the science behind these numbers, but we have about 20 parameters that we know just in regards of the Earth, which you and we can verify these, and they need also to be just right. And that gives a good indication that our Earth is actually special, even amongst trillions and trillions and trillions of galaxies and stars and potential planets out there.
So I do.
Well, hold on. I want to ask.
Okay.
It's completely off topic, but I'm just genuinely curious. Those circle things behind you, Otangelo, are those speakers? Is that a sound system?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
That's cool. Oh man, dude, you need to invite me down so we can rock out sometime. Because holy shit, man, oh my god. Anyway, I did want to say, so because I think there was a little bit of nuance in what Otangelo said with respect to what I'm going to respond to with the whole math thing. So we do know that things like salamanders and bees and like dogs and chickens and giraffes and even bears and stuff like that use math. They have numerical skills. They have a sense of arithmetic. Now, can they do obviously like advanced, calculus? No, they don't understand graphing and functions and things like that. But we are not the only species endowed with a numerical ability, an ability to recognize a quantitative structure in reality and utilize that to better understand it and even make predictions about it.
I want to say one comment that the conditions that make life possible are not known. We don't know the conditions for life. We might know the conditions for the life that exists on Earth, but we don't have a well understood structure for what are the conditions for life. And that's one of the problems with the teleological argument, is to make this assessment that how do we know that the universe is finely tuned if we don't know specifically what are the potential conditions for life?
Can I channel my inner Luke Barnes as a response to that? Because I do think that I know how he would respond to that. I'm not going to try the Australian accent.
But before you channel Luke Barnes, I just want to say Wes Ray is in the backstage. You're not showing me your face, so I can't let you on until you show me your face. Okay, go ahead, Leo.
So again, I'm not going to try the Australian accent because I'm going to fail. But what Luke Barnes would say is something like, well, I think that there's at least one set of fundamental constants or parameters that we know can give rise to life, and that's the ones we see in this universe. So we know of at least one that does it, and what we can do is run experiments that vary those even by extraordinarily small amounts and see that life, at least as we currently understand it, is just not going to form, largely because lower order structures like atoms and all that other stuff that life ultimately depends on aren't going to be able to form in most of these universes. Now, again, that's not my answer, but I think that's how somebody like Luke Barnes or Robin Collins would respond.
I mean, if you want to, the question then is that set of one, or that set of which one, that is one, component of that set that set could be huge. And so if we just don't understand that, then it's hard to make an assessment on that the universe was finely tuned for our life when we don't necessarily know what are the conditions for life. So
Yeah,
Well,
let
the
me answer.
way.
Let me,
Oh, go
can
ahead.
I answer,
wants to
Jason?
answer. Yeah,
Well,
please.
Jason, I think the bigger the odds, the less likely it is that we are here because of chance. And the odds that we know, they are so astronomically huge. And I'm talking here not only in regards of the universe, but also in regards of setting up life and in setting up a functional genome, a minimal genome, to have a first living organism, and to set up the genetic code, which is a mapping of nucleotides to amino acids. So there are so many things which need to be just right that I think any theist is justified to believe that God exists just based on calculations of probability.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this argument before, and actually, I was reading some work by several folks. I mean, and actually, I watched a video that Sean Carroll was specifically talking about this, where addressing the issue of probability with regards to fine tuning, and how many of these parameters, which we say, life could only, like the universe had to be this certain way in order for it to exist in the manner that it does, isn't true, and that there are, and he mentioned entropy in one. He talked about, and I can't do justice for what he was saying, but something about the progression of entropy, and that the expectation of that is one thing, but there's a broad spectrum for life to have formed with regards to that. I'll look it up. I don't know the exact.
There's another one
exactly what he was
that you
saying.
should watch, Jason, from the particle physicist Nimar Kani Hamed, where he talks about fine tuning and I think the natural, just the concept of naturalness. It was done back in like 2012, 2013, something like that. Oxford and Cambridge got together for a philosophy of cosmology conference, and a lot of these things were discussed. There was something that I did want to say with respect to the teleological argument, because I personally think that it's the strongest argument for theism, and I think that its strongest formulation is going to be a Bayesian form, where the probability of a life-permitting universe given theism is greater than the probability of a life-permitting universe given naturalism. My first objection to that argument would be, how do we establish the expectation values of a life-permitting universe under any ideal, whether it be naturalism, theism, or something else? That would be my first objection to that argument, is how do we establish those expectation values for a life-permitting universe given any state of affairs?
Wow, Leo, I didn't know that you would say the teleological argument is the strongest one. Cool.
A lot of
At
people
least
have
in the
said that.
form that, like, oh, I'm sorry, Jason, go ahead.
No. That's all I was going to say. A lot of people say the teleological arguments.
That one or the contingency argument are the two that I hear from most atheists, at least analytic atheists that actually
All right,
understand.
Jason, can I
hear
give you
atheists say
another?
the teleological argument isn't good. But wait, guys, I want to pause. We haven't heard from Wes yet. So hi, Wes. Welcome. And please tell us your thoughts.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I missed most of this conversation, but so forgive me for not being fully informed. Brother, what's your name? I can't read your name. It's a bunch of symbols.
That's
you can call me Leo.
Leo. Hey, what's up? You said something that piqued my interest about animals being able to use math. And like I said, I wasn't in for the whole conversation, but was somebody arguing that because humans have like a higher understanding or something, or what?
Yes,
what
I
made you
think
talk about
Angelo
that?
was pointing out that humans' ability to like use advanced mathematics and to develop advanced systems like mathematics and logic and and things like that is reason to suppose that humans are more special or important or significant. There's a variety of different terms you could use. I can't remember exactly which one he used over others, which is, there's certainly that's an argument that can be made. I'm not, disagreeing with that.
I would generalize and include animals, Leo. I wouldn't say just we as humans. Of course, I think we are made upon the image of God, and therefore we are special compared
Amen, I agree. That's
to
why
animals. But what I meant is that our Earth and all life on Earth is special compared to the universe, stars, galaxies, and exoplanets which do not host life. So there is a big difference here. But I would like to answer to Jason in regards of probabilities. And there is an aspect which I think has not much been appreciated. And that is the fact. There is an argument of sequence space. That means that there is a special sequence which is necessary to have a functional protein. But there is also another space which is called chemical space or structure space. And what is meant by that? If, for example, a company has to develop a drug, then they have an enormous amount of difficult possible molecules which would not provide any function, which then would be become a drug for some benefit or something like that. So they need actually to make research and find a molecular composition which then will provide some kind of function. And there is a science paper from 1998, and they have made a calculation about how many different molecules supposedly were extant on Earth, and they came up with a number of about 1 to 10 to the 100th power of different molecule composition possibilities. So we know that life uses 4 very complex macromolecules, nucleotides, phospholipids, amino acids, and carbohydrates. And they are manufactured by very complex biosynthesis pathways in the cell. And obviously, these synthesis pathways were not extant prebiotically. And that's where chemical experiments come in, where scientists try to find out how these macromolecules could have emerged prebiotically. But if you have a 10 to the 100th power of different possible molecule compositions, nature did have no aim to become alive, to produce macromolecules, which then would be part of the building blocks of life. So, and you didn't have natural selection to sort them out, those which are needed in life, and take away those which are not needed. So this is a big problem. And I've never seen any atheist coming up with a better alternative explanation to explain the origin of these building blocks, rather than an intelligent God which had the purpose to create life.
Oh, but just on that this last thing, one thing, Leo, and then I'll let you speak. 20 seconds. That okay, the 2 facets of what you're talking about, like one, you were saying how probabilistically unlikely this is to occur. But we know for a fact that it has occurred, so that actually, so the results of the development of the world as it is, as complex it is, has resulted in the life that we see. Duh, that's what you would expect. Now, if you are able to give me a definition of how all the potentialities of how life can form, then you might have some argument about the probability aspects, but you don't have that. And secondly, I don't quite understand how you suddenly got from improbable aspect to therefore it must be God. That's a complete jump in logic, and I don't understand how that happens. But I know that you might want to respond to that, but let Leo say what he's going to say, and then you can respond. Go ahead, Leo. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say that we do know that how pretty much all of the nucleosides are developed. We've discovered them on asteroids, and we know that they weren't contaminated by anything on Earth. So the basic building blocks of life is actually not the hard part. The hard part is how it all comes together to actually make life. That's the part that is hard.
Yeah, I disagree with that, Leo, because all asteroids, they do not hold only amino acids and nucleobases which are used in life. They are a big mix of different molecules, which is precisely my point. There was no selection mechanism to sort out those molecules that are used in life from those which are not used in life. And that is really a big abiogenesis problem.
There's reasonable pathways for that. I know one is the amplification of certain RNAs via, I think, the utilization of oligonucleotide substrates, and that as a result of genetic combination, there can be certain substrates that better catalyze recombination, and so will be picked up and utilized more frequently as a result of that. So we can see a sort of a Darwinian selection going on even in chemicals. We can see selection processes happening in chemicals even when not doing anything related to like even biological research, because that's chemistry just does that. That's chemistry and entropy and the laws of physics and all of the material in the universe just behaving the way that it does.
Yeah, Leo, before even you can talk about polymerization and nucleotides starting to build genomes and gene strands, you need to explain how RNA actually came together. And we are talking here about the nucleobases, the backbone ribose, and the phosphate. That is already something which science doesn't have plausible explanations. And these bonds, they break down in water, they hydrolyze. That is one of the other big problems. The other is that you have 5 carbon atoms where you can stick the base there. They can be put elsewhere. They are also homochiral. Life uses just right-handed nucleobases. They could be left-handed. Science doesn't have an explanation how they could have been sorted out to be just right-handed. And I could go on and on. There are so many problems, Leo.
Okay, hold up.
Hey, guys.
If we're getting into RNA and carbon atoms and all that, you guys are too damn scientists. I'm going to tap out. But I do want to say what I was going to say to Leo. I had a question for him. So we can agree that man and animals can both use math and logic and plan ahead. You know, animals are pretty much just as sophisticated as humans in a lot of mental functions. However, mankind is made in God's image, and they are distinct. Man is distinct from animal, and I'll tell you at least one reason why. Because mankind is the only species that knows right from wrong.
That's not true.
I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Well,
what do you mean by right and wrong?
Good versus evil.
What do you mean by good and evil?
I
mean,
you
so
know what?
when I
wanna-
think
guys,
of good and evil, when I think of something that's good, I think that of an action or a behavior that all things considered one ought to do. And I think of evil as just an action or a behavior that all things considered one ought not do. So there are other beings that humans that act this way. We've seen this in many mammal species, actually.
Yeah, I mean, look, guys, I do think, you know, I've had animals that react when they know they've done something wrong, then they react. And so I do think
it's not love, though. Humans are the only ones that can love.
I don't think that's true at all.
I
think
like my dog and my
we
dog
know that
loves
elephants
me, my
mourn
cat
those
loves
who
me.
die. We know there are other ape species that mourn the death of the species members.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that's true that other animals
They
can't
can be
love.
emotionally invested, but I'm saying humans are distinct because they have the capacity to act out of love and selflessness, where
other animals do that.
Animals are always making decisions based on self-preservation or the preservation of their young by instinct.
Humans are animals.
Huh?
I said, well, so are humans, and humans are animals. Like, we're not something separate from animals. We are in the animal kingdom. I mean, unless you want to say we're plants, because that's the only other option. Or maybe like sort of protozoa or something like that.
Guys, I have to interrupt, and I will say I do believe in human exceptionalism. So I think there's a lot of differences between humans and animals, but I do think more animals act in moral capacity sometimes. But I do have to end this stream. I love to go 5 hours. If anybody wants to continue this conversation on your channel, we can direct everyone to go to your channel. So if anybody wants to volunteer, please let me know. And I'm sorry for those who tried to join the stream. There were a lot of people trying to join who, you know, weren't able to get in because the studio was full. But I really appreciate everyone's, you know, chat messages and for trying to join the stream. And I'd love to continue this conversation. Unfortunately, I actually have somewhere to be in just a few minutes. So does anybody want to continue the conversation on your stream?
Rebecca really dropped the ball there, didn't she, guys?
Hey, we've been going almost 2 hours, guys. But I know you'd love to go more, and I would too. But anybody else gonna do it?
I would, but I also have someplace I have to be here in about like 30 or 40 minutes. So
Okay, what about you, James? Because James, aren't you doing a channel now?
I have never hosted before. I don't know how to do it. So once I figure it out, you know, from then on, my answer will be yes. But I'm not ready for it.
Okay, Otangelo, Sal, Jason.
Midnight.
Okay, I guess nobody's going to do
I
it. Well,
can't do
it's
it.
been a great talk today, guys. Thanks for everybody who's joined. And it was kind of fun because we actually had a pretty good... Oh, Japheth, you want to do it?
No. I just said this is a bye-bye.
Oh, you're saying bye-bye. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, we had a good mix of Christians and atheists and different perspectives in the chat. So thank you guys for being here. It's been fun, and I hope everybody has a great day.
Yes, and I appreciate that I wasn't
Thank you.
overtalked today. So thanks, Leo.
Yeah, everybody
Bye-bye.
did good. Thanks, guys. Good night.
Thank you.
Oh wow.